Well, hello and welcome to the first video of the year, unbelievably, in regard to the housing market. Why have we waited so long to do the first one? Well, there was a lot going on at the tail end of last year, and also the housing market was pretty much saying the same story, which was low stock levels, prices going up. So there wasn't probably an awful lot to add. So what we thought is we'll wait and see what January looks like, to review on the whole of January, which we're going to do now, see what's happened over the course of the month and where we are breaking it down by properties. Now, anybody who's seen these videos before will know that we have the usual information in regards to what this is. I will do this very quickly this time because I suspect it's getting a little dull. On the left hand side we have the index, which is actually showing the redder the tower, the higher the price, and obviously the higher the tower, the more stock there is. On the right hand side we have how we're filtering this, so we're looking at the dates, what happened over January, and we can also look at actually the bedroom size. Now, hovering over things, you'll see that at the bottom there's a bar that comes across which shows you what the average rent is for that location, for that tower, based on the average number of properties. Right, lovely. Let's move on. So looking at the whole of January, and let's just zoom out a bit, you could say everything is great because there seems to be reasonably high levels of stock coming on. Also, looking at this color across the board, it doesn't look terribly red. So all in all, everything should just be fine. However, when you start breaking it down, you start seeing the story. So let's have a look at one bedroom properties. And again, we're focusing on London primarily. Well, the first thing that jumps out to here is the fact that it is predominantly of the redder colors. So this is showing that one bedroom properties coming to the market are at the higher price range compared to anything we've seen before, albeit stock levels are there. This, again, just disclosure, this is showing what came on, not what is available at the moment. So this is what came on over the whole month, excuse me. And so at face value, pretty good. So what can we say? Well, Docklands, my favorite, quite a few different properties have come on. 100 plus properties, I'll say, around there. Lovely. Centre of London, in the areas, actually let's just zoom in a bit, this is probably a bit far out. So the areas around Hyde Park in particular, Hyde Park is snuck away in the middle there. Pretty good, reasonably good property numbers coming on, you could argue, albeit you can see that the average price of them is pretty high. And this is the key issue actually, there is just very little that is of a modest price range across the whole of London. In fact, you have to start going out to the other side of Docklands over here. You have to start coming out into parts of Surrey. So you're looking at areas south of Croydon. So going towards Reigate, Red Hill. You've got Sutton, reasonable stock levels in regard to pricing. Epsom, actually really very little. The most popular areas outside London in areas of Surrey, and the reason why this is very popular, by the way, the American schools are based around places like Cobham, Esher, those sort of areas, again very little stock levels. So yep, reasonable numbers there, but you have to say they're going incredibly quickly and the prices are high. So it has a bit of a repetitive pattern to it from the tail end of last year. So let's have a look at two bedrooms. Any better? No. So the simple answer is there is still reasonable levels coming on, especially my good old Docklands area. Around the centre of London they are there, as you can see, but again average prices are blisteringly high in parts of the locations. So looking at sort of £4,500–5,000 on average per month from the areas are key around Hyde Park. Areas around Richmond Park, which is super popular for very good reasons. You can see two bedroom flat numbers coming on, again not very large. A few areas north of London, okay. Croydon usually has reasonably good two bedroom flat numbers, but as I said before, Croydon's a mixed bag. Parts of it really good, parts of it just not, to be honest with you. So be careful in parts of Croydon. Sutton, okay, fine, not so bad. Parts of North London going into Hertfordshire, modest levels. Okay, let's have a look at three bedrooms. Now, three bedrooms I think is a pretty good indicator. Why? Because most people with families will be looking for three bedrooms. So immediately in London, you can see stock levels are very low. Unsurprising, you're not expecting a lot there. Even in my favourite little Docklands area, you can see there's not a vast amount coming on in that location. But the really interesting thing is just how low these towers are in all the key locations outside London. So as you can see around Surrey, going into the borders of Kent, into the Hertfordshire, it's really, yeah, really low numbers. And I think this is the key story. This is over a whole month, by the way. This isn't just over what's happened the last week. This is a month worth of activities for 3-bedroom properties. So again, we're just seeing that the modest stock levels are really biting in some of the areas that people are hoping to find properties. Let's go into 4 bedrooms. Okay, unsurprisingly a lot less, but if you're looking, I keep going back to Surrey, excuse me, but it's a key sort of barometer on this conversation. Surrey is an area where you would expect to see a lot of 4-bedroom properties. This is key locations for families. And as you can see, for a lot of these locations, apart from quite a bit of activity over Windsor over the month, so 13 properties around that Windsor location, so not massive. Oh, actually, look at Guildford. If you actually were interested in finding property, Guildford is probably a good option, or has proved to be over the month. Reasonably priced, you could argue as well. So that is an area that might be worth looking at. But areas such as Dorking, Reigate, Cobham, going into Walston-on-Thames, Esher, going up towards Richmond itself, as you can see, very modest levels of properties, 4-bedroom properties. So I'll come on to the views in regards to what this means to the property market shortly. 5-bedroom properties, yeah, we wouldn't expect to see an awful lot. So there's surprisingly quite a lot in sort of some of the north parts of London. But overall, very little. Windsor, again, has some reasonable stock. How's good old Guildford? Again, pretty good. So who knew? Guildford is a location that really should be considered if you are open to the idea of living a bit further out from London. And by the way, Guildford is a cracking town to live in, although it is a reasonable commute back into the city if that's where you're going. 6-bedroom properties, again, you wouldn't expect there to be much, full stop, very modest levels. So let's go back to 2 bedrooms. And consider what this is actually telling us. So the situation at the moment is stock levels have been reasonably good in some of the key areas over the course of January. The underlying story, though, is demand is incredibly high. There was a recent article by Knight Frank, one of the top London agents, that was pointing out that the demand for the properties has increased not just from people moving within the UK, but actually expats coming in. The demand from relocating assignees across the board has dramatically increased. And while that's great, it is putting an extra demand onto the properties. So what do we think moving forward? Well, it's a common story here. If you see something you like, as a stock is coming on, it is available, you have to be quick, see them properties quickly, make an offer that is sensible, ideally the asking price. Recognise some of the key locations that will go over asking price. It pains me to say it, but it will, and it does happen on numerous occasions, especially in the areas of real prime importance or prime areas that people want to move to. So if you see something, react very quickly. Don't expect to get the best deal ever. Keep thinking about other locations that might be available, of interest. Excuse me. So as I said, some of the areas outside London, the stock levels are fairly modest, but they are there. But don't fall in love with a location that you really say, I have to live, say, in Cobham for sake of a location. As we can see, if we look at all properties for something like Cobham, which is not a big place, by the way, Cobham. It might be a lovely place to live, but this is not the epicenter of housing stock. You can see really over the course of the whole month, it's a handful of properties that come into places like that, or Weybridge, or going up into some of the key locations around Richmond Park, Surbiton. You can see the numbers overall for a whole month are not that big. So the properties are there, they're coming on, but just be really quick. Be sensible on the asking price. Consider other locations. Think of other areas that might be of interest to you. Keep talking to our colleagues. We've got all this data at our fingertips, plus a lot more, by the way. There is more to the data we have than just this. So explore with us, have a chat with us, ask for ideas boards. Let us sort of explore some areas for you that you may not have considered that might be really good for housing stock that offer variables as far as your relocation to the UK is concerned. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. We will start doing these on a fairly regular basis, probably every fortnight or so, depending on the market. If you want something unique to yourself, if there is something that you want to know, then reach out to us and we can discuss it with you. If there's any companies out there who would like us to research any areas in a bit more detail, again, reach out to us and we can look into that for you. In the meantime, take care. I hope you find these of interest, and I look forward to speaking to you again in due course.